Let's see if we can get this going. Pray for us. We're going to get it going. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sander, with This and That. We're talking about this, that, and everything in between. And today we are talking about an interesting note that I just really wanted to cover this. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to cover this was because we had some pretty interesting things that's happened recently with the campaign trail that's happening. And I just really wanted to go in there and give it a hoot. So I said, well, these criminals that's coming into the borders is a pretty huge topic of discussion as people's been having as of late. And I know that it's part of the Biden administration as to the effectiveness of immigration and other such. So, I just thought, yeah, we probably would have to cover this. And one of the reasons why we would probably have to cover this is because, we have been going back and forth about what's going on with the left side and the right side. And now we're looking at something very interesting because I actually looked back into it just to see exactly what they were talking about. And as of this past week or so, it has been confirmed that they are actually allowing convicted violent criminals into the United States and giving them asylum. And I was like, what? And I was just wondering, what are you guys' thoughts about that? Because I know that we talk about a lot of different things on this show. We talk about relationship status, how to get money, how to save money, how to invest in stuff. And I know that politics is one of those sensitive topics that we try our best not to get on one side or the other with. But we're looking at something that I thought was very interesting that a lot of people, especially if you look closer to Texas, should be really reconsidering is that, while we understand that there's a couple 100,000 immigrants entering the country every month through the border, and then they have that asylum program that allows illegal immigrants, people who didn't properly do their paperwork first, to come and get benefits from asylum that they don't give to the homeless people that were born and raised in America. And then from what we understand, the position of Camila is to help these individuals find employment and then send them back to their countries for those who don't actually get citizenship here in America. Now, I have not found anywhere in the requirements to become a U.S. citizen that past criminal convictions would disqualify you from getting citizenship in America. But what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, is there like a certain status that doesn't allow you to come into the country the same way there's a certain status that doesn't allow you to get a concealed carry permit? Or do we stick to the melting pot position that we've always had from back in the day? That's actually it's actually a very interesting concept to really mull over. And in addition to that, while I was talking about it, since I'm kind of debating on the Harris style and Harris involvements, that there was a concept that I thought that really actually affected the rest of the guys on the podcast. And one of the things that I actually wanted to really cover and I was a little bit unnerved by was being one of those not necessarily contributing to that particular voting style, but definitely wanting to discuss how a little while ago there was, because this was as of some September, Sunday, October 6th, which was like yesterday. So there was a report done where they were talking to Harris, and they were talking to Harris about something else. But I wanted you guys' thoughts about the convicts entering the country. And because I understand that Trump's position on this is to get rid of everybody that wasn't born here, and I mean, I understand that our melting pot idea was that this was supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave and all that jazz, and you're supposed to be able to come as you are and turn over a new leaf. Now, under the assumption that individuals who have done wrong in the past can, in fact, turn over a new leaf, that would have to be the first thing you have to analyze, because the average American does not show redemption to criminals that have been arrested and convicted in this country and then turned around and released after serving their time. So if we as American citizens can't get arrested for a egregious act in our past, be released for that egregious act, and then not have that egregious act held over our heads for the rest of our lives, is it fair to say that it is possible for somebody who has not been born here, who has done pretty despicable things in a different country that we would have frowned upon them for in this country, to give them citizenship here? Because isn't starting over like part of your redemption and rehabilitation process? Or is it more along the lines of, once you screw things up, like they overemphasized in the cartoons, it's like it's on your permanent record, and like there's no redeeming that. Like if you do something horrible, then you just become stamped as low life and never have the ability to show promise. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of in line with some of the things that we talk about on the show, is that you got to take a look at this. Harris had this comment that came up. She talks about it's not 1950 anymore and dismisses criticism over not having biological children. And I understand that, I mean, a lot of politicians have wives and children, and the whole family dream idea is the expectation for presidential candidates. And not too many presidents that have run were not married, if not married with children. So even if they didn't have children, they were not married with children. But Camila is one of those candidates that's doing what she does. And apparently she is doing the stepmom role. So she's got kids from her husband. It doesn't really bother me that she's got kids going for her husband, because, I mean, women should be able to take up that responsibility of dating and marrying a man that already has kids, the way they expect men to be able to date and marry a woman that already has kids. Successful women should be able to take care of men that are less successful, the way men take care of women that are less successful. But I just thought that the mentality here that came off from Harris just kind of really twisted the grind. And one of the reasons why it did was that how do we put this? Kamala Harris talks about how she feels sorry for the Arkansas governor, Sarah. And I mean, I don't really care why, but she comes back and says that, I feel sorry for her and I'm going to tell you why. And Harris says, there was an episode of Call Her Daddy podcast that released on Sunday, because I don't think she understands that there are a whole lot of women out here who, one, are not aspiring to be humble. That's true, because there are very few of them that are humble. But two, a whole lot of women out here who have a lot of love in their life, family in their life, and children in their life. And Camila thinks that it is very important for women to lift each other up. Now, I love her enthusiasm with the concept, but what spins me is that, notice I've said in previous shows, is that when it comes down to family, women are told to boost each other up, to pat each other on the back, to tell each other they're perfect, to, all about the sisterhood. And there she's not talking about, how to support the family as a whole, just support the woman. And I stopped and I thought about that, and I was like, isn't that a little bit isn't that a little bit uh crooked to just say, hey, in this family dynamic, all us ladies should stick together. Like, because the women are not trying to band together, take care of all the children. The women are not trying to band together and have happy households. They're just, banding together. And the feminist mentality is to be kind of like a leader of yourself, and don't take no authority from anyone else, but not really lead the family, where you have a husband that protect and provide for, you have children that you protect and provide for. That's not the mentality that's being taught. It's just, the sisterhood, we should stick together, we should do our own thing our own way, and not be humble about it. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this threw me through a loop. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I have never picked a side with this scenario, but I thought that this was hilarious. Between the policies of taking American tax dollars, giving convicted criminals, while helping these convicted criminals find jobs, and then wasting American dollars on sending these convicted criminals back to their own country, because you're not helping them find jobs in America, you're helping them find jobs in Mexico. And that's what's stupid about the idea, in my personal opinion, is that you have like 5% of the American population that's unemployed, and you can't find them jobs. They just stay homeless and unemployed, and your unemployment compensation only lasts for about 12 months after your most recent job, and there is no more compensation for you after that. So if you can't find yourself another job, they're not really trying to help you find another job, but they're taking American tax dollars to help somebody who doesn't even tell you who they really are, who, if you were to run their background, can potentially be part of the 13,500 most recent convicted felons that came into the country. And, you're trying to help them find a job in a country who might know who they really are, and then send them back. I'm trying to figure out, if you're sending them back, why not send them back? I mean, I feel like if you're going to let them stay here, you should let them stay here. But if you're going to let them stay here and you're going to put them out there in the orange groves and shit, and give them a lower value job, a lower prestige job that most Americans don't want to do, then, do that. But why waste tax dollars on providing them with resources in a third world country that you're going to send them back to, when you're not willing to provide those same resources for the citizens that live in this country? That's my question. Why are my tax dollars freely given to somebody else, but my tax dollars doesn't take care of my people who need that same assistance? That was my confusion in the same platform of the same person that's saying, 1950s anymore, instead of saying, we're supposed to come together as family, we're supposed to back up our families. With ladies, we're supposed to support our family. She didn't say that. She said the ladies were supposed to support each other. And it was kind of like a gender conflict between her and some lady named Susan, and related to some talk show that involved the Republican Party. And I just thought that was a little bit rough to really throw that out there that way, because I mean, when is it going to be the case where women are telling other women and promoting other women and boosting each other's mentality into the mindset that we're supposed to be looking out for our partner and educating our children to be family oriented? Because not one woman in a political position, a rich position, a middle class position is talking about that. They're not talking about how look, and then they say that learn about politics. That is not what we're trying to do today. We're just talking about some interesting facts here, but we'll let that ride, because they want to. I love how when I start talking about certain things, that TikTok automatically sticks a stamp on it and says, "Well, learn about U.S. elections." I am not talking about the election. I am talking about fucked up shit that is happening in the country. I might have said a key word somewhere that triggers something. And they just, I see it stamped at the bottom of the screen. Learn about the U.S. election. And I'm not talking about the election at all. I'm talking about people's mentality. Oh boy. Hold on, guys. I got a shit ton of comments in here. Let me jump in on here. We've got oh, he's got a comment. We're not going that way, Clips XF. Brico, what's your definition of democratic political parties? I want to get a good idea of that. So, you want me to tell you what is a good definition of democratic political parties? That's hard to say. Typically, the Republicans are more conservatives when it comes down to the laws and rules and regulations. And when it comes down to political parties, you're looking at Democrats are typically more sharing of the resources, which comes from more of a communist style fashion. But for me to be able to just identify across the board what is a good democratic political party, I can't even really find a specific platform that has been promoted by a politician that I supported in the most recent times. I believe that, okay, so from the position of the I guess the democratic observation, if you were thinking about that, paying taxes into a governmental program that is going to piece together benefits for the general population, which would support the 99% of the population, not just the top 1%, would probably be, in my expectation, a better political program or a better political party. But I have never seen in my lifetime a political party in one sense or another that would have potentially represented full on just the way things, I guess, should be when it comes down to saving on taxes and stuff to that effect, and getting benefits from your country. But typically people think about getting benefits from their country. They figure if you got enough money to take it on yourself, that you will take it yourself. Like, how do I put it? You pay your own way, the capitalist way. You pay your own way and get in there and make it work. This other one, he says, what's your thoughts on American soldiers being arrested and held in other countries? Do you think they should be turned over to America? Well, hold on, buddy. And then I know he throws up a lot of additional questions I won't throw up there. I missed those questions. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get to you real quick, my guy. He asked me about the American soldiers that are being held in other countries. Do I think that they should be turned over to America? I mean, every time we decide to go somewhere and go get somebody, it costs us a lot more than what we gain. Are we at war with other countries? Why are we sending our troops to other countries? If our troops are out there doing something to, for, and with other countries, and negative fallouts lead to such things as people being arrested, were they arrested for an agenda that I supported? Or did they get arrested for an agenda that a governmental power assigned to them that I knew nothing about? That's the first question that you have to ask yourself. Was this something that you just like kind of let the American people know, hey, this went down in this country over here, should we send our troops out there? That wasn't a thing. The president, Biden, actually has the authority as to whether or not people go somewhere, and outside of the president, you have the military that decides what happens. And the rest of us don't have to really think about politics or what happens from politics. We just have to understand that it happens and pops up on the news when it's allowed to pop up on the news, that something happens, uh, that something actually happens, and whether or not we get affected by that or not. So uh, it, it, when you say that troops got arrested, like if they were arrested for doing something that violates the laws and rules of that country, then I would say that uniformly speaking, if you are not supposed to break the rules in this country and that'll put you in jail, then you're not supposed to break the rules in another country because that'll put you in jail. Likewise, I feel like if they were unjustifiably, where they didn't break any laws, they just got picked up off the street for being Americans, the same way we get picked up off the street for having good tans. If you just got picked up unjustifiably, should they be let go? Of course I do. But do I believe that if I'm an American and I go to another country and I break a law in that country and they put me in jail and I'm supposed to sit in that jail for 1 to 5 years for breaking that law, that my country should come and break me out of jail so that I don't serve time for committing a crime in another country? Do I believe that we should do that? No, I don't think we should do that, because two problems that we have with that is the lack of accountability, because Americans do not take responsibility for themselves, which is why first person accountability is not uniform, which is one of the reasons why the gender inequality conversations can happen. Because when you claim that we're supposed to be equal, but one gender mistreats another gender the same way, with back when we were doing race discussions, we had a lot of topics up there talking about how we can't be equal if one side is being oppressed by another side. Now, likewise, what we're dealing with the gender inequalities, we see more now. The and I see your other two questions here. We're going to deal with them appropriately. We see with inequality now, we see not only are men not being treated well by some females, we also still maintain the obligation and expectation in our society to be able to adhere to other expectations where there is no accountability. So I get talked down to if I don't do what I'm told, but then I don't adhere to the expectations where I can tell you to do something for me. So when we deal with that imbalance, I kind of feel like that's something that needs to be corrected. And when we talk about that lack of accountability on the podcast, which is what I actually started with, was the lack of accountability. Because when Camilla's talking about how women should promote other women and blah blah blah, when you start talking about the ideology of family, the ideology of family is that outside of homosexual relationships, so where there's 2 men or 2 women in that relationship that have potentially a child involved, you have the traditional family where there's at least 1 man and 1 woman in those traditional families and any number of children. Now, from that, concept, when the accusation is that, the lady doesn't have any of her own biological kids in her nuclear family, the idea there was that, she doesn't necessarily need to have her own kids as long as she loves her family. But she did not promote loving your family, supporting your family, and telling the women to be partners in their relationships and back up their partners the way they expect to be backed up by their partner, the way I was talking about on the show last night. And then turned around and said, ladies, let's stick together, and let's boost each other up, ladies. Ladies, I'm gonna be honest with you, the women don't need any more boosting. The women need responsibility. They don't need to be boosted. They've already been put on a pedestal for 25 years. They don't need to be put on a pedestal going into 2025. They need to be given responsibility, and they need to be given obligations that they probably don't like. And fair to say, the obligations that they need to be given is the exact same expectations that they demand from men. I think that would be a little bit more balance in our economy. But it's a little bit hard with that. Now you come and ask me appropriately, do I like Camilla's policies? Well, we talked about that on the show once before. and they don't apply to me. So how can I like them? How can I dislike them? I can say, you know, support the side of the fence that you choose, but I can't say that the policies make any sense. Um, the as a, the reason why they don't make sense. Let's start with the ones that don't directly piss me off. Let's start with those. So the policies that I'm aware of is that they're supposed to be doing away with the hidden fees thing. So you can't go to a hotel and touch shit without them giving you advance notice that you got to pay for the shit that you touched, because nothing is free. If you pay for the bed that you're sleeping in and the room that you get, then that's all you're paying for. And if you start touching extra shit, there's extra fees involved. If you get on the plane, shit's not free. You're paying for the seat on the plane, not the food and drink that you get while you're on the plane. There's an additional cost of that shit. And you don't think that you're going to get on the plane, that you're going to pay $500 to fly on this plane, and that $500 includes food. If you did not buy a meal plan before you got on the fucking plane, you eat on the plane, you're going to pay extra money when you get off the plane. It's not hidden fees. It's just the cost of doing business. You think that everything is all inclusive, and that is not the mentality of somebody who the cost of doing business. That's not that mentality. That mentality is that you got to pay for convenience. That's the mentality. And if you're paying for convenience, you understand that if you touch it, that there's fees involved. So doing away with hidden fees, that's fine, but that does put the blue collar worker into a tougher situation, because when it comes down to making sure that the client knows that they're asking for something, but what they're asking for is not what we're selling, and what we're selling at this price is not what you're asking for. The advertisement dictates that, for example, a car sold at MSRP, it's got a certain price on it, and then that price is supposed to be that price for the base model. But they're going to tell you, oh, well, we've got this model with the floor mats and the tinted windows and the Bose stereo system and the 20-inch gold chrome rims with the white wall tires and all this other shit. Same model car, different trim, costs just a little bit more. Now, the one that they're showing you is fancy. We like to waste our money on fancy. The one that they sold you on, the price that they sold you on was the base model, where the windows still roll up manually and you still got to turn a knob to find channel reception. So I guess hidden fees will put a stop to that particular situation. But it just makes advertising a little bit more difficult. Still going to be done because Americans are wasteful. That's the only reason why inflation still works, is because, I mean, the more money you give us, the more money that we spend on shit that's not business. And that's one of the reasons why when I talk to you guys about paying into your investments, your stock portfolio, you would do a whole lot better than getting into buying a bunch of unnecessary shit for the girls that you're dating to impress them. Like, and I'm going to finish these policies, but I want to talk about this thing real quick, because, you know, when I talk about this and that, I talk about this, that, and everything in between. Look at the fact that, you know, when women talk about how they want a man that is worth their time, that's supposed to be on their level, but the man's got to make 100K, and most women don't make 100K. Most women are making between 30 and 45K until they're 50, and then they make between 42 and 48,000. Now, just think, you know, nurses at hospitals or whatever. If you got a man that was on your level and you were making like 30, let's just boost it up a little bit and say that, you know, you're a teacher right now in certain states that are doing a flat rate $55,000 for a teacher. You could be dating a man that's got an intro job as a janitor somewhere, and he's making like 38,000. You know, you two together are making almost 80,000. The median standard of living is 68,000, which means that you got about $20,000 there that you don't need to spend. Now, if women were in the mentality of boosting up their family and boosting up their relationships, which is where I was going in the beginning, before you asked me these questions about how Camilla is boosting up women's minds about backing each other up, but they're not boosting up women's minds to back up the fucking family. If she was a partner to her husband, Y'all are making 20,000. It doesn't matter if 15 out of 20,000 is the wife's. What matters is that if y'all making 20,000 and y'all are in it together, and y'all are putting 20,000 away every year and putting it into stocks, bonds, and real estate, getting back almost 80% returns on that, you're getting almost $18,000 back off of every $20,000 that you put up, which is $38,000 a year worth of end results that's being multiplied over the years. You will get to $1 million faster than what you would on a 20-30 year plan, putting $500 away on a regular basis. But you have a difference of $20,000 that you don't need to spend on bills or emergencies or bullshit, that you could invest in stocks, bonds, real estate, Bitcoin, and you could literally go from being because remember this now, poverty line is working class. So let's start with that. Poverty line is working class, and the poverty line being working class is right now pegged at about 70,000 a year, where the average working class person that's still considered poor is making $1,650 a week. Now, most of us that are not making $2,500 a month, and those of us that are making $4,000 a month, we're in the poor range because the poverty line is so high because of inflation. So let's just think about that real quick, and then think about the fact that if you're broke, you're making $50,000 a year. Your partner's broke, your partner's making $45,000 a year. Y'all are making $95,000 a year, and y'all could put $35,000 a year into stocks. Y'all could invest it into something. Y'all could put it into real estate. Y'all could do things together. If y'all take, if you're taking, 80% or 90% of your assets and putting it in, or your income and putting it into your assets, and she's doing the same. If y'all moved into the same house, because that's mostly what we do, we find somebody, we like them, we hook up with them, and then all of a sudden they're living with us. It doesn't matter if she's living with him or he's living with her. Y'all combine two incomes with one household instead of having two incomes in two separate households. And now you're both paying half. Since women say let's go half, you're both paying half of the cost of the standard of living for the one household, which means that you have half of your income that you can invest in shit, which means that y'all can both work together and take half of your money and put it into investments, where a 20-30 year plan could be a 2 to 5 year plan. Y'all be millionaires in less than 10 years. Why do we not do that? Why do we not get into relationships where we're not dealing with individuals that are more responsible? We got somebody over here that says, Joe says, no, a trust is opened. The trust takes a lease. You pay rent on the trust. Look, I didn't even have to go that route. And we got geniuses jumping in the comments talking about how you can literally put and then if the property is in the trust, you're paying the lease, you're paying money or rent or whatever to the trust. The trust is making a profit off of your trust. That's your trust. It's making a profit off of your property. I mean, some of that money goes towards the mortgage. The rest of that money goes into the trust. The trust can actually invest into the top 5 stock markets. You can actually set it up where your trust can have beneficiaries that are starting to receive dividends over a period of time. You can build up generational wealth. And we just choose not to. And I don't understand why we choose not to go down that route. I have a lot of people that have said that, building a trust is hard. But from what I understand, in order for you to build a trust, the two main criteria is that you have to have a primary trustee, you have to have a secondary trustee, and then you're going to have a beneficiary. And as long as you have those 3 things in place and you're willing to pay the cost to establish a trust, you can set up a trust. Now, depending on the price of the trust and the price of your income, how many trusts do you want to put up and what do you want to assign them to? That's up to you. But when you build a trust, when you have the revocable trust where you can control that shit the whole way through, or a non-revocable trust where you can appoint somebody there to take over the shit, you can set up things where your money can make money for you. So when Camilla was talking about just empowering women for women to just do things for women, and I was just like, nah, y'all tripping, because what about the men in that situation? So with some of those other policies that you were asking me about, because while Joe is brilliant and Joe has the right idea, because you get you a land trust, you're set there. You get you a corporation and put that corporation into a trust, you're set there. If you get you a charity, you're doing nice things for folks, and that charity is doing nice things for folks, and that's a 501c3 charity. Your C corporation can donate to any 501c3 regardless of who's in charge of that thing, and you get a tax write-off for that. And your all of this money is moving around and all of these tax write-offs that your companies are getting, and then you're going to end up in a situation where you don't have to pay the U.S. government, but you're making a decent quantity of revenue, and some of it revolves around you paying yourself out of the money that you made for yourself. So think about that for a second. But the other policies that you were asking me about with Camila was the rest of her policies were the one about abortion. I'm not a big fan of the concept of abortion, and the reason why I'm not a big fan about the concept of abortion is because regardless of whether or not you value human life, the fact is that if I don't have a choice, if you have the child, then I'm required to pay child support for the child. If you decide to have the child, I should be able to decide whether or not I want the child. If I want the child and you don't want the child, then the way the abortion law should be written is that if at least one person wants that child to live, that the child should live. If both parties don't want the child to live, you do what you do. But if at least one party wants the child to live, the child should live. If the sole responsibility of the decision of the child living is on the woman, then the woman should be the sole responsible party of whether or not the child is properly taken care of. It should not be it takes two parties, because it takes two of us to make it, but it takes only one of us to keep it. And since it only takes one of us to keep it, the one who kept it is responsible for paying for it. That's how it should be, because we actually have situations where when men have custody of the child, they don't get child support for the child. They just don't have to pay child support for the child. If a woman can't afford to pay for a child, there's governmental benefits for that. But if a man can't afford to pay for a child, they put him in jail for it. The system is imbalanced. There's a bunch of equality there. And then the other policy that she's got for the immigrants, I just told y'all about them. They're giving them asylum. They're giving just about everybody who could possibly fit through the door a place to sit, sleep, take a shower until they figure out what to do with them. But we have 5% of our population that's homeless and unemployed, and they're not giving them shelter. They're not giving them asylum. We actually have most of the states in this country have outlawed homelessness, where homeless people are being put in prisons instead of put into a shelter of some sort. And you don't have 24-hour shelters. You only have like overnight stay, and it starts after sunset. You got to get out before sunrise. If you work overnight, you don't have a place to sleep during the day because the shelters are closed during the day. So they don't really have emergency housing in America for Americans, but they have emergency housing for non-Americans who want asylum. I thought that shit made no sense. So to answer your question, their policies don't back me up, but neither does the Republican policies neither, because the Republican policies have nothing to do with me. They're going to go up. They're going to take shots at the LGBTQ community. They're going to do away with second-tier student loans. They're going to get rid of loan forgiveness and all this other stuff. They're going to modify the tax brackets, but after they modify the tax brackets, they're going to do away with the tax deductions for individuals on W-2s. So unless you have a C corporation or an S corporation or an LLC, then you're going to be paying through the nose and you're not going to get any tax breaks, whereas anybody with any kind of half-ass business put together is going to be able to get tax breaks based on the new model. So if you're not trying to build big business like Joe, who was sitting here telling you how to get yourself a trust, where you could get you a land trust, you could get you an LLC or a C corporation and have multiple properties under control of a holding company that is also in a trust, and then you're paying rent towards the trust, and then you could take the money that you're paying rent towards the trust and put that money into stocks and bonds and boost yourself up on that. You'd probably do better over there as well, which would still give you more benefits in the long run, because if most of the money that you're paying towards your standard of living is actually paying your business, and your business is going to take the money that you give it and invest it where your business would turn profits off of your efforts, and most of that is non-taxable because of the debt that you accrue from acquiring your property. I mean, you make money for you, and that's one of the mindsets of capitalism and the mindsets of being American. Now, one of the things that I can say is that any party, whether it be conservative or no, that is talking about giving us our Second Amendment rights to walk around here like the Wild Wild West and snipers and all, suppressors and all, then by all means do you, because I mean, as it stands, the American population is 1/4 of certain countries that if man-to-man combat occurred, we can't protect ourselves because we're not legally allowed to acquire the quantity of defense that we would need for the American government to say, oh, we're going to draft everybody. Like if war started in America, we wouldn't be able to back ourselves up because most of us are afraid of guns, and the pacifists don't really believe in having guns. And it's just a really ridiculous concept. If we have the right to it, there's one state, there's a city in Texas that is a law that the head of the household has to have at least one gun. And I mean, we should all have at least one. But if we don't have at least one, we should have at least one per person. And a room full of ammunition. So that if it's going down, if the zombie apocalypse is going down, we got what we need to back ourselves up. Now let's see. Clips asks, he asked a pretty interesting question. I had to brief that a little bit just to make sure that it was appropriate. He's asking me if I'm a fan of the LGBTQ community and whether or not they're deserving of freedom. Well, gonna be honest with you, buddy. They're already as free can be, and the reason why is because in most countries you don't get to choose to self-identify yourself. You are identified by your country, by what your country identifies you as. Being in America, you are able to say that you don't identify or recognize being a he or a she, that you must be called a it, a they, a them, or whatever. So that's a level of freedom. You have the ability to get operations that were not natural to your body when you were born. That's freedom. I don't know what other freedom you want them to have. Anybody that is different in a biased traditional society, and we are a biased traditional society, and our biases in our traditional society is that if change occurs, we're not okay with it. So if we are in a biased traditional society and you decide to be different, the society is going to treat you different, and it's not going to be a favorable difference. The same way they treated minorities bad in this country until immigrants started coming over to the country in mass quantities. Now the minorities are treating the immigrants bad the same way that they were being treated before. It's like we are a traditionally biased country. We're not in favor of change. We're not in favor of improvement. It is what it is because it's always been that way, is the motto of some of the people who will not allow traditions to change. But we don't have family value traditions. We don't have family orientation traditions. We don't have the goals to treat each other with love and respect, and value the men that you sacrifice for all of the policies and politics that we're talking about right now. So I thought that was a very interesting swing on things. He's asking me, what do I think about those boys that are using belts to they're strapping themselves down with lethal devices, and then they're running around doing unethical behavior with those things. Well, I'm going to tell you, if your desire is to go out with a bang, then you only can succeed with that once. But you could fuck it up, and you could fuck it up royally. And if you did fuck it up royally, I mean, you could be maimed. You could be like missing some limbs, like half of your face. If you watch that movie Preacher on Netflix, young boy had tried to take his own life, and he goofed it and blew a hole in his face, and they had to sew his mouth together, and it wasn't very successful. And I got to tell you, the way they stitched his face together, it looks like a butthole, and it's a pretty interesting running gag that they do, because the guy has to like almost spit when he talks to kind of get like his words and everything out, because he doesn't have any teeth or anything in the front of his mouth. And I mean, it's all about like recognizing the fact that he put a shotgun in his mouth and then he tried and he failed. And I'm still trying to imagine how he happened. I'm guessing that he kind of like threw his own head back when he did what he did, and that led to it taking up his upper jaw, and but it didn't mess up his nose. It just took up his upper jaw and then kind of messed up his forehead and stuff. So I was just looking at that like, wow. And when I think about people who try and fail, um, people who try and fail are they're not satisfied by their decision to attempt the attempt. So uh, there you go. Let me see. Clips has a question here. I want to make sure that these questions are appropriate. He wants to know about jaguars in Japan. You want to know if they're able to go there to find things to get and do things that are not allowed to do if they go. So here, do you think that the jaguars in Japan should be able to, if they will be there when they go? So I'm guessing that you want to know if you can go to Japan and get you a jaguar, right? I'm guessing that's the question that you're trying to ask me here. I'm gonna say back to those 24 soldiers that were snatched up and put into captivity. If you go to another country and you do something that you're not supposed to do I believe that you should be able to go there and not be punished for that? No, I actually believe that you should go there and receive your punishments for it. But I definitely don't believe that it's a good idea for you to go to other countries and do things that are not ethical and not valid. But I do personally believe that it is a good idea for you to learn the rules and laws of the country that you're about to go to before you go there. And then when you get there, as you decide that you want to take chances on certain things before you perform certain actions, find out what the rules and the laws are about those actions before you do it. If you can get like access to a translated copy of the laws, especially in some kind of database where you can Google that shit and get you some information, I strongly recommend that you try that. But that would be my recommendation to you, because if you're following their laws in there, because you as an American citizen would be held to the responsibility to abide by your own laws in their country. So you're not going to be able to go to Japan and grab a 16-year-old because it's legal out there and say, oh, I'm going to do something in Japan that I can't do in America. Because as an American citizen, it's against the law for you to be touching them under the age of 18. If you go over there to like Japan and China and think that because their laws are saying 13 to 16, that you can go over there and make it do what it do, you will end up locked up, fucking around, finding out that the fullest extent of not getting locked down is that you're going to have to find a way to get written consent, and that has to be written, not verbal. You have to get written consent from the child's parents before you do anything that you're not supposed to be doing in America. But America has that same written consent requirement, but nobody ever thinks about written consent. We just make it do what it do, which everything in this country is transactional. And if we were thinking about the transactional lifestyle that we're in, and everybody's just going with the flow and letting the next man do whatever they can with the next man, we're not really paying attention to the fact that if we got a lot of our interactions with one another on paper, we wouldn't be getting fucked over so much. Now, I know you are really excited to see me respond to these next two questions. You're asking me, is that a regular human instinct? Or is it considering the loss of life? Well, you would have to, when you start identifying whether or not an action is involved in taking a life, you would have to first recognize that where is life recognized as life? So is life recognized as life when it has a heartbeat, or is it considered life when it has a consciousness where it acknowledges its own existence? Or like, when do you really expect it to be considered alive? Because when you're referring to that particular concept, Is a chicken egg alive? So, Bricko, if a chicken egg is alive, and then you're gonna freeze it, and then after you freeze it, you're going to crack it open and fry it up. The moment that you cracked open that egg, that so first you tortured the life if you're considering it to be alive, and then next after you tortured it, you ended it and then fried it up and made you 2 omelets with it. If you're considering the egg itself alive. But if you say that, well, it's not alive until something breaks itself out of the egg, then in that situation, the answer to your question is no, it would just be human instinct. And then his last statement kind of capitalizes off of his previous question. So there you have it there. Yeah, I'm not gonna throw 100% of the responses up here, guys, because some of the ones that you say are definitely inappropriate. And while there are no stupid questions, there are inappropriate times to ask them. So I would have to say that when I see an inappropriate time to address a statement, I would have to say, yeah, I'm probably not going to air that particular question. But back to look, because they found out that I'm not actually talking about politics upon politics, they segued it back to the normal screen. See, TikTok be doing us dirty. We be on the show. We be on the show talking about everything but the election. And as soon as I talk about too many political words, they swear up and down that we're talking about the election. I'm like, bruh, that is not where we at. But anyway, back to the inequality thing. I thought that was reckless and it just happened last night. And that's one of the reasons why I made that part of today's show, because she's talking about on one side, Camila was talking about on one side, they're talking about the asylum thing, doing the right thing for the public. But I don't see anything that either side is doing for me. I just know that the top 1% is going to benefit from what they do. And maybe if whoever goes into office does some things to make it easier for us to tote guns, then maybe we'll be able to tote some guns in a less restrictive environment. But we would have to be able to tote guns in a less restrictive environment in a more holistic fashion, meaning that regulation. Because if we get firearms, we're going to deal with overly aggressive police officers that are going to shoot first because you actually do have a firearm, not just because they thought your cell phone was a firearm or a bag of Skittles, or, you know, the person that got shot just because he was pulling his pants up, the person that got shot. And that's another thing. A lot of the unlawful shootings that's been happening from police taking out unarmed citizens in this country, Camila's not doing anything about that. She should be. Nobody's doing anything about that. Trump's not even doing anything about that. Trump's talking about the police aren't able to do their jobs. Politics are stopping them from doing their jobs. No, bro. You shoot an unarmed person, bro. If I shoot an unarmed person, I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. If you shoot an unarmed person, just because you were paid up until the point where you shot that person, doesn't mean that if you're shooting an unarmed person that you shouldn't receive the same consequences, because what you did was wrong. You know, a lapse in judgment is not a lapse of judgment that can be excused when the lapse of judgment leads to a loss of life. So, Clips, you're asking, when should the adult activity should be done in the confidence of your own home? It should not be done in the general public. And but we do. We kind of just like monkeys and rabbits, just kind of get it in everywhere. But that particular act should be done in the confidence of your own home, even though there are laws that say that there are certain actions and behaviors that you can't do in the confidence of your own home. Nobody's really going to be, Big Brother program is going to be infrared goggles into your house, seeing what you're doing. But it's unlikely that they're going to set SWAT in there because you guys are performing some like OnlyFans positions in your household there. So if they start enforcing those laws with the martial law and everything that goes on, Uh, and when martial law goes on, there's no constitution. So if those laws happen, the constitutional laws go out the window, and then you're just a prisoner in your own home. So if you're not stocking up, you better start. But yeah, that answers that question. So back to what I was saying about the where was I at? Oh, I was talking about how those guys were going back and forth um with other concepts that really don't benefit the American people. And since they're not benefiting the American people, it actually makes more sense for us to really be just trying to figure out how we're going to get by our day to day. But I just didn't like the fact that she instead of the lady promoting, like, encouraging women to stick with and support their families, she's encouraging women to support other women, and us ladies should stick together, kind of thing, and boost each other up. But y'all say, how is it that any woman in any position in life can claim that all women should stick together and boost themselves up when you have already claimed that you're pushing men down makes y'all equal to men? If you're already equal to men, why are you still boosting yourself up? If you were on a seesaw and you were once at the bottom and you have boosted yourself up, and now that y'all are equal, why are you still boosting yourself up even further? Wouldn't that make it unequal again? Wouldn't that tip the scales out of the favor of balance? Men are teaching men to be partners to their wives and be providers of their wives, and being inherently conditioned to be able to support their wives. But women are not being taught to be partners and support their husbands and their boyfriends. And if you're going to lead your family, you're going to lead your family without being a dictator. And you're going to protect and provide for your family as a whole, where women have the same rights as men to be leaders in their relationships. When are we going to talk about that? When are we going to have that conversation amongst the ladies, where you ladies are able to empower each other to be more cooperative and less combative? I can see it right now that if we ended up with a female president, we'd probably go to war every 30 days. She'd be like, stomach hurts, nuke. Heather here. Heather, you can answer that question. Why is it that women are continuing to promote, we should stick together and boost each other up, but no women are promoting we should be a partner to our husband or our boyfriend, and we should boost him up? Oh, as soon as I asked Heather that question, she retired. Well, eventually we're going to get that answer from some of these women. Like, why are you not team players? But I actually thought that, while we did kind of like a massive roller coaster, because we talked about like 30 different things in the podcast today was a pretty interesting topic. Pretty unorthodox to the ones that we were supposed to be talking about. Next week on Monday, we're going to be talking about this purge concept, because my boy just made the statement. Now, I told y'all 2 months ago, almost 3 months ago, that we were going to head in this direction. I told y'all that we was going to head in this direction. And as soon as I told y'all that we were going to head in this direction, right after the not guilty verdict led to the immunity plea, I told y'all, bro, all it takes is for a purge to happen. It just takes one political party to put the wheels in motion, and then all of a sudden we have a purge. And if y'all ain't stocking up on resources, I'm telling you, it's crazy out here. But I'm gonna be talking about that, and we're gonna have us an interesting discussion about that, and try to go into length about like what's up with the alleged purge mentality, and we'd be able to kind of figure out like what do we do about that. And truthfully, if you're looking at a lawless, because Trump was talking about a lawless hour, he said like a one real tough hour. That's what he called it. A lawless hour, he believes that the country will stop. I disagree. I disagree. A lawless hour, you would be able to knock off anything that got in your way within that 60 minutes. And I mean, if you have dislikes with neighbors and other such, you would have been able to ransack that situation quickly in that hour and not have to deal with negative consequences. But if you think about the whole premise of the series, The Purge, and when people really realized that there was no negative impacts on the decision making process that they made, I don't think that Trump's position is going to get them what they're looking for. You're not going to see a city of people, a country of people that are going to say, "Oh, that's too much violence. We need to be policed so that we don't have to go through that again." We're going to see a lot more people saying, "Oh no, I'm getting in it next year because there's no punishment for my actions outside of having to sleep at night and remember the things that I did or allowed to happen if I didn't do anything." I don't know. 12 full hours of, because that was the premise of the purge, 12 full hours of, no laws. Like you might even premeditated, you might even relocate yourself to the location where you want to have your actions performed. And then they would have to take action. And that's going to be a reckless position as well. So as we wrap up the show today, and I just want to give a shout out to Red Void. I really appreciate you coming to the podcast today. Look at that, verification complete. As I appreciate you coming to the podcast today, Red. I just want to say we're going to sign out of TikTok first. Because I just thought that this particular political position was pretty nuts. But, as soon as I started talking about something serious, I had like 30 people shoot up at the woodwork and started asking questions. And I was like, whoa. But I'm gonna tag Joe. I'm gonna tag Joe because when we start talking about business, I'm gonna want Joe to come back. And we're gonna talk about some money making tips in here. So as soon as I find, hold on a second, let's see where Joe was. There's Joe. I'm gonna follow Joe because we want to make sure that when we start talking about Joe Blair, when we start talking about money, he's a rural network engineer. Look, we need more intellectual people like that on our ticket. So probably what I'll do is when I find some like-minded intellectuals that are jumping onto the podcast, filling in with positive insight, what I'll do is I'll tag like 15 or 20 of them, throw them into the comments on the TikTok side so that they get a heads up that we're shouting them out and drag them back into the podcast, and we can start talking about money. We can start talking about investment capital, because got to be real with you. It makes no sense for us to waste our time with nonsense, but I just thought that it was weird that we don't have the ability to promote to ourselves how to look out for everybody as a whole, but just individually. It's like, oh yeah, we're just going to support this one group. I just thought that was something that we should talk about today. So as I wrap it up today, I really appreciate you guys coming. I'm going to sign out of TikTok first. And ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to continue to ask you to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. And as I sign out of TikTok over here, I appreciate you guys for coming on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. But I also sit back and look at the statistics here, and I like to throw it out there that very, very limited number of, I don't know why they had the MLB show up there. I guess some people like Major League Baseball, but let's see, we had very few. There they are. They said they rearranged the list just to keep you fresh. They rearranged the list. So when you're looking for a specific one, you're like, yeah, hey, I had a problem. I definitely had a problem, because when I'm talking on the podcast and then they decide to switch me over to this red thing learn about the U.S. election, like, I don't give a shit about the U.S. election. I'm not one side or the other on that, but I know that while they're trying to get swing votes, I am not going to sit here and promote swing votes. I'm not going to promote left side or right side because neither one of them is benefiting from me. But either way, I appreciate you coming to the show. I'm about to iron some things out because I want to get some business and finance up here for tomorrow and possibly Wednesday, and then kind of get some stuff set up for next week and the following week. So we have the full month of October up and posted and starting to trickle into November. I do still have those products coming in the mail, but I know that with the delays in delivery that I probably just impatient. I was hoping for 1 to 5 days, but it could be 7 to 10 business days with snail mail. He did send it through UPS, the book, the investor's book. So I do still want to go over that investor's book, but I do want to make sure that before I go that before I schedule the show to talk about the book, that I actually have the book. So that was part of the reason why I had certain gaps, because Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we talk about non-relationship shit. So we talk about boosting yourself up business-wise, boosting yourself up health-wise, self-preservation, getting your mental state together, all this other stuff on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then the social interactions we talk about Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So that's your balance. And then on Sunday we actually have like questions and comments where fans can come in and ask random and ridiculous questions, hopefully appropriate questions that can be aired on a live podcast. And then I provide you guys with rational and logical responses to those questions. And then, we kind of carry on from there. Open-minded, open forum discussions. So that's kind of how the lineup is. So it's kind of a 3-part divide, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is supposed to be more business and less social. And Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is supposed to be more social and less business. But I hadn't filled out the week yet because I wasn't sure where the book was going to be. And I told you as soon as the book got there, I was going to be talking about the book and the deck of cards. I got to reach out to Samantha about the deck of cards. I'm going to show you guys this really cool deck of cards and promo it on the show. So I'm trying to see how soon is it going to be before the deck of cards gets there. Probably going to touch base with her later today, which is another reason why I'm going to get off the air early today, because I want to be able to make sure that I can reach out to some of my affiliate contracts so that I can get their products in and get everything set up so that we'll be able to have a lot of goodies being shown and presented onto the show where we can talk about what they are and what they do, and really inspire people to make some different changes. Now, again, I told you I'm gonna find out some stuff. It might be in the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna find some stuff that directly involves your country. So if I can find some things that's going down in Romania that you guys can tweak it a little bit, get some more information on it, and find ways to make money for you worldwide, nationwide, then I'm going to be able to promote that on the show as well. I know they have some incentives in a lot of other countries, but I'm going to see what kind of incentives that they have in Romania, what kind of policies and businesses that they have in Romania. But the real estate game is still the same. The only difference is the legal requirements that you need to buy a property in Romania versus the amount of capital you have to buy a property in Romania, and the lending sources that they have in Romania. But you also have to understand, while we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in America, because of the quantity of capital that rolls around in America, in Romania, the cost would still be 10 to 20% of the cost of America. So while you don't have larger financial values like we do, your property in Romania doesn't cost $500,000 US. If it was, I don't even know if the Romanian currency was, but if it was like won, yen, baht, something like that, and it's like a percentage of American dollars, you just need really, if you wanted to get started in real estate, one of the major requirements that a foreign domestic company has is that a local resident has to have 60% ownership over the property in order for a foreign domestic property to do business in that country owning land. And if you knew an American that had American money that he could spend in your country that would cover the spread financially, just get you a business partner. That's a whole nother thing. So that's all I have for today's show. I just thought that we would talk about a lot of these breaking news stories It was a little bit unorthodox, a little bit rocky, but the fans really did bring in the left field questions that really did turn the key to insanity. So I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Sander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night when we're actually going to be talking about something related to money. So have a good night.